Hello and welcome to the Cristina Astrology channel, where we explore the cosmic blueprint of your life through astrology. My name is Cristina, and if you're ready to decode planetary influences, uncover your soul's lessons, and align with your true purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's astrological insights. So today we're going to talk about the full moon in Leo on February 12th, 2025 at 5:55 a.m. PST. Now, a new moon signifies the beginning of something, and the full moon signifies the end of that cycle. For example, the new moon in Leo was on August 4th, 2024. So, whatever you initiated then will have a completion with this full moon in Leo on February 12th of 2025. For example, these are 10 things that I initiated on August 4th, 2024. Here's the first one. I want to be filled with creative new ideas regarding raising the necessary funds to attend Dr. DeMartini's Master Planning for Life, held on January 3 to 5th, 2025 online. Now this I already completed on September 2nd of 2024. The second one was I want my intuition to become more accurate and strong. And I can tell you 6 months later, my intuition is off the charts. And we'll also dive in deep into why that is with the current transit, not only the full moon. I want to easily find myself taking those actions that directly result in me becoming debt-free in a happy way. And I can tell you that in the last 6 months, I have created two courses. I'm on my second course now. I have created a website, which I haven't had a website um, for 2 years now, where I have clients. I just didn't have a website. And they kept on asking me, how can I refer people to you? So I finally have a website. I have business cards to go with that website, and I have a lot of other things that I'm putting together for this second course. And I've also completed my first in-person event. So a lot of things have happened since I actually made this initiation in this way. The fourth thing that I wrote down that I wanted to initiate, I want to easily find myself allowing the natural flow of life to bring me my good fortune, graciously accepting the universe's bounty. And I can tell you that people have come into my life that I've never even expected. I have formed connections that I never even expected from August 4th until now, and it's just off the chart. I want total clarity showing me how this structure of the hierarchy of values course will look like. The next one after that is I want to easily attract the sources of information that will give me answers on how to implement my course's structure. Okay, there's an interesting thing with this because the way that I structured everything, I'm not following anything. It's just pure downloads. So whatever comes to me, like it's like do this and do this and do this. That's basically what I'm doing. This is how I created a 12-week program from just the beginning is like, figuring out where it is that you are right now, and then figuring out where it is that you want to go. And then, the next 6 weeks is to remove all the in-between stuff. Because here you are, here you want to go, and then we remove the in-between stuff, get you closer to where it is that you want to be. And because of that nature, I needed to see, okay, so this is going to have a course component, this is going to have a live component, and how all of that is going to come together. And up until recently, I thought that I'm just going to go run ads to that event. However, it's like, no, 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 no. You're not going to run direct ads to that event. It's going to be promoted in a different way. And that's why now it's having me complete another funnel with another structure. It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting all the things that have developed since I asked for this back in the new moon of Leo. The next thing that I wanted is I want all resistance to receiving lots of money for my services totally lifted for me. I'm still working on that. I want all resistance to completing things totally lifted from me. So I used to have a quote unquote issue with completing tasks, as in, I'm an Aquarius, Sun and North Node. So I do not do well with structure, which is quite interesting because I have 5 planets in Capricorn, and Capricorn is all about structure. So it's quite interesting how this is playing out because my form of completing stuff last year has been in the form of a continuously letting go of limiting beliefs and stories that are standing in my way. And now it's like, now it's your go time. Now it's actually time to do and implement. And that's how I was able to complete so many things in just the first month of January. Like, it's been insane, the things that it had me complete. So I can totally see why it wanted me to, go into and remove all those blockages last year. And also, my form of completion last year was in that form. It was in the water form because water has to do all with emotion. So it wanted me to be in the water. It wanted me to complete stuff there. And now it has me in the earth, or fire, depending on how you want to view things. Fire is the go do and all that. And I'm also in the Virgo year. So every one of us has a year, that a theme of, our life. It doesn't matter if you're Aquarius, right? Aquarius sun or moon or whatever, it doesn't matter. So every year it's something called a profection year. So this is another part of astrology. And astrology has very different applications. It's vast. So this is called a profection year. And last year I was in my Leo year, and now I'm in my Virgo year. And Virgo has to do with completing tasks, daily routines, health and wellness. And also it's governed by Mercury, which Mercury has me speaking. Like, it's literally compelling me to speak. So this is why I'm making this video as well. It's having me speak. So I've noticed that the form of me completing tasks has moved from me being in my feminine, basically in the emotional, the completing, the doing, the clearing in there, and now it's having me do in here, as in completing tasks and all of that. So it's been quite interesting to see that shift. The ninth thing that I initiated back in the new moon of Leo, I want the resistance to being in alignment with the 4 elements daily to be totally lifted from me. So, what are the four elements? Well, in astrology, you have four elements, and we all do. So there's air with fire. These are the polar opposites. And then there's water with earth, and these are the polar opposites. So think about this as a car, right? You have 2 wheels in the front, 2 wheels in the back. If either one of those wheels, if, like, let's say 3 of them are firing and one of them is not, well, your car's not going anywhere, okay? So since I know that, I asked, like, hey, I want the resistance for me being in alignment with the elements to be totally lifted from me. So how do these elements play out in your life? Well, water is all about emotions. So do you allow yourself to be in your emotions, okay, and feel them and not totally like sweep them under the rug? Then earth is all about completing tasks and grounding. Do you allow yourself to complete tasks? Like, do you see things to completion? Air is all about communication, which is what I'm doing now. Like, my chart is heavily on air and on earth, which is quite interesting, quite an interesting dynamic. And then fire is all about the movement, the doing, it's the dancing, the singing, anything that has energy behind it. So that's why I was asking, like, because I know that if one of my wheels is not working, then my car's not going anywhere. And then the last thing that I started back in the new moon in Leo in August is I want to easily find myself fully receptive to all my wishes coming true. Because that's another thing, is if I don't believe it's going to come true, it's not going to come true. Like, that's for everything. Like, if you don't believe in the things that you ask for, well, you're not going to get it. Okay. Now, some of these have already been completed, and some of them I'm still working on it. Okay. Now, the full moon is the energy of releasing what no longer serves us, and the new moon is birthing the new. Okay, which is also why women's menstrual cycles tends to be aligned with the cycle of the moon. Now, this full moon in particular is happening at 24 degrees of Leo, and it's best to look at your chart and see what house Leo is in. And if you have any planets 10 degrees either way of the transitioning moon. So it'll be from 14 degrees of Leo up until 4 degrees of Virgo. If you have anything in there, that is going to be affected. Now, for example, my Leo is in the 10th house, and I don't have any planets in the 10th house. Also, look in your chart to see if you have anything at 24 degrees Aquarius, since the sun and Aquarius are the polar opposites. So with the moon in Leo and the sun in Aquarius, there's going to be a tension there. Okay. Now take note of the house and the planets that the transitioning sun might be aspecting. And for example, my Aquarius is in the 4th house. And if I look between 14th degrees of Aquarius to 4 degrees of Pisces, I can see that this transitioning sun is aspecting my Aquarius North Node. And since it's the sun is going to shine a spotlight, okay, shine the light, think of the sun, it's shining, right? So it's going to shine a spotlight on my Aquarius North Node in the 4th house. Now, how does actually play out in my life? Well, I've been working with my mom for quite some time now and helping her dissolve some of her limiting beliefs and stories that are holding her back. However, I never worked with her epigenetically before. So on the 9th of February, I was guided to work on her epigenetically, and I knew exactly what I was signing myself up for. First of all, let me explain what epigenetics is. So before you're born, you chose which lineage you're going to incarnate in. And so any disowned parts that your ancestors carry with them, they got passed down at birth to your grandparents. Then their disowned parts got passed down to the lineage to your parents, and then their disowned parts got passed down to you. Now, what is a disowned part? Well, anything that your lineage disliked or resented, judged, or liked and admired. Okay, any of these are disowned parts. And the thing is that you didn't do anything wrong to inherit these parts. Okay, you actually chose to incarnate in this lineage in this lifetime. And if you want to know more about the reincarnation process, I'll leave a link to that particular video below. Now, epigenetics works with the informational tags that we have on our DNA. And these informational tags store generational patterns and emotions and energy blocks, and the informational tags can be turned off and on. Now, the most surprising part for me is that when I work on myself epigenetically, whatever I release releases from the ancestor that trapped it, releases from the unborn grandchildren, and also releases from any siblings as long as they are blood relatives. Now, I'll give you an example. On April 8th of 2023, I was learning how to release epigenetically on myself, and I asked this question: what's the inherited block preventing me from moving to LA? So I applied the technique I was taught with muscle testing, and my answer was addiction that was trapped in my root chakra going back 4 generations on my mother's side. So I released that, and I let my mother know that if she notices Granny stopping smoking or drinking all of a sudden, not to panic because I did something on my end. Now, 3 to 4 months later, I get a call from mom, and she's saying, "You won't believe what happened." So I asked, "Well, what happened?" And she said, "Your granny stopped smoking and drinking all of a sudden." So I had to remind her about what I did 3 to 4 months ago when I released that inherited pattern of addiction that went back 4 generations on my mother's side. And I could see that addiction pattern and how it played out in my great grandma's life. And for her, it showed up as addiction to cigarettes. For Granny, it showed up as addiction to cigarettes and alcohol. For Mom, it was more of an addiction of needing to control everything. And for me, it was an addiction to video games and escaping my reality, because that is why I played a lot of video games, because I wanted to escape my reality. Now, this release happened on April 8th of 2023, and I moved to LA on May 21st of 2023. Now, I just want to let you know, and I want to be very, very transparent, that me working epigenetically on myself is not the only thing that I did to dissolve those fears that stopped me from moving to LA. However, this working epigenetically on myself, it did help me move forward to my goal and help my granny out as well, which at that time I had no clue that's going to happen. And I also noticed a shift in my mother, and she's not trying to control things as much anymore. So, because the person I was about to work on epigenetically was my mother, I was well aware that there is a high possibility that whatever I release in her, I could also release in myself. And whenever I work on myself, regardless of the method, all I want to do afterwards is go to sleep because my body is really, really tired from all the work that I did and it just wants rest. And this particular day, I had a back-to-back meetings from 9 a.m. until whenever it went. The last booking that I had was at 7 p.m. and usually that goes for 3 to 4 hours. So I knew that there was a high chance I would be very exhausted for the rest of the day, especially since my appointment with my mother was at 9 in the morning. Now, however, I chose to honor my intuition and I worked on her epigenetically. Now, the main reason my intuition prompted me to work on her epigenetically was because she wasn't feeling well, said that, she didn't want to cancel because she knew that I could help her in some way, shape, or form. So, after I asked her a few clarifying questions and my intuition prompted me to work on her epigenetically, I started to work on her. And initially, I was guided to write 12 questions to ask her body. However, we only went through three of them because we went very, but very deep in that. And I didn't want to overwork her body. Now, with the first question, what came up was CD in the solar plexus chakra. And CD, it usually means ill or unwell. So it was fairly fitting because that's what she was feeling. She wasn't well, like she had a cold. And she trapped that at the age of 12. Now, with the second question, I released ruined from the heart chakra, which was an inherited emotional block on the father's side going back 4 generations. Now, with the same question, I also released a negative core anchor belief of I don't want to grow up and be serious, which I know how it plays out in her life. And I'm like, this is so fitting for you. Which trapped on the father's side going back 8 generations. And I also released a sabotage on the self, which again, I know how it plays out for her, but because I could see the way that she sabotages herself. And usually it's the health aspect. Now, with the third question, we released stupid from the third eye chakra, which was inherited from, it was interesting, the same ancestor going back on the father side 4 generations. And we also released a sabotage on courage, remove the curse on marriage and romantic relationships, remove the negative core anchor belief that sex is painful, that was on the father side going back 7 generations. And also a disembodied spirit. And every time I worked on her generationally, and I'm like, oh, I could see how this applies to me. It was quite a fascinating session with my mother. So, out of all of that, the most surprising thing to me was the disembodied spirit, which actually turned out to be my great grandmother and her grandmother. When I was removing the spirit, I heard the name and I'm like, this is weird. And like, it sounds like great granny's name. And then I hear like, don't you recognize me? And I'm like, oh, so it is you. Okay. So that kind of eliminated the doubt. Okay, okay. Now, this is the number one reason why I was prompted to work on her epigenetically, because usually the body gets sick when there are more than one spirit inhabiting the body. And again, if you want more information on other symptoms that you might have, an invisible friend hanging out around you, then I do recommend you check out the reincarnation video, especially when I talk about the death process. Okay. And I'll leave that link below. Another thing I got from Granny was that both mom and I knew she was in the fifth dimension. Okay. Because we dreamt of her. So when you die, you're going to the fifth dimension. And if that person that died appears in your dream, then you know that they're in the fifth dimension and they're fine. So because she appeared in both of our dreams, we knew that, she left Earth and she was fine. The other thing was that I haven't dreamt about her in quite some time, and she said that she had to come back. Okay, so literally I could hear my grandmother talking to me. I had to come back and all that. And spirits can choose to come back if they want to. Now, after the session was over, mom and I had a chat, and she told me that her mother started calling her the same thing that she used to call my great grandma. And that's when it clicked for both of us, because Granny was missing her mom, my great grandmother, and because that was such a strong emotional connection and missing her, she called her back to Earth. And mom said it was very weird because they started to bond and be really close to one another, and that never happened before. And she said that they even hugged, which again is super rare for the relationship between my mom and my grandma. And so my mom said that my granny probably needed to feel that her mother's hug, and so she came back and hugged her through my mom. Another interesting part was when I was removing the spirit from my mother of, my great grandma. My grandma was calling my mom. So it's like it was a family reunion in there in various aspects, and it was just amazing to witness. And another interesting thing that my mom said she felt, it was the energies and the wave of emotions moving in her body as I was working on her chakras and releasing it. And at the end, she felt fine. She didn't feel sick anymore. However, I was exhausted. And I knew that this might happen because, again, we're blood relatives, and I released it from her, but it also released from me. And another thing that happened, I also had another first time with one of my friends, and it was the first time I ever worked on her epigenetically. And her reaction at the end of it all was like, I'm still just trying to wrap my head around the fact that I had two spirits inside of me. And that I actually saw the last one. She's like, so when you said that, the last one was a woman and her name was Mary, that really blew my mind. So it was interesting because the transiting Aquarius sun was shining a light in the fourth house of my family, because my friend is like my family now. And the most fascinating thing with this Leo full moon and sun in Aquarius is that the sun is the planet of Leo. So for me, it's shining a light on my family. So the sun transiting Aquarius in my fourth house. And it's also shining a light on my career, which Leo is in my 10th house. So Leo is linked directly to sovereignty and letting our creative light shine. And it made sense that I was guided to shine and share my creative intuitive light with the people closest to me. And also I'm guided to make these videos, which I know are on track with my career. Like, this is one aspect of what it is that I do for my clients. This Leo full moon also has been manifesting quite interestingly in my career, not only in this way, but in other ways as well. So I've let my creativity and intuition run wild with how it wants me to design my new funnel. And it had me for a little over a week working until like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then trying to calm down until like 4 or 5 in the morning so I could actually go to bed. And I am most creative at night. And that might have something to do with the fact that I was born at 12:40 a.m. I don't have direct confirmation. That's the link. However, I'm just, it's quite interesting to see that my creative juices, sort of come online. The closer it gets to nighttime, that's when it comes on. Pisces and Leo are the most creative zodiac signs, and we will dive into what's happening in Pisces right now in a moment. Now, courage is another big theme with Leo, and if you're anything like me, you tend to keep things from the people that are closest to you because you're afraid of how they might react. And this fear is something we all have stored in our amygdala, which is the primitive part of our brain. Here, we believe that when we do something outside of the norm, we will get kicked out of the tribe. And if we're kicked out, well, that there are more chances that a predator will come eat us and we'll die. There are several primitive fears that trigger this thread of if I do X, then I'll get kicked out of the tribe and potentially die. So we choose not to do X and instead die inside. So what do I mean by that? Well, I tried to be someone I was not so I could please my ex-husband, and I ended up resenting myself. So I didn't get kicked out of the tribe and, died by a predator. I died inside because I was untrue to who I was and pretending to be someone I was not. So for me to share that very different part of me with the people that I hold dearest to me took some guts and a lot of work for me to get to that point. Another thing to note is that Uranus is at 23 degrees of Taurus, which creates a T-square to Leo and Aquarius. So for me, Leo's up top in the 10th house, Aquarius is down below in the 4th house, and Taurus is in my 7th house, and that creates a T. Now, Aquarius is very strong, very, very strong with Pluto transitioning Aquarius. And you can already see the dissolution of the government, especially with Elon Musk and Doge. Now, the fun fact here is that if anyone is going to bring the US into the future, it will be Elon Musk, because his north node is Aquarius. And the reason this didn't happen in Trump's first term is because Pluto was still in Capricorn. And Capricorn is all about structure and tradition. It's all about, the CEO and the hierarchy beneath it is very, very patriarchal in structure. And Aquarius is the polar opposite. Aquarius is the rebel, the innovator. It's brilliant with technology. Elon Musk, the visionary who loves freedom and wants equality. If you allow yourself to listen why Elon Musk created his companies so that he can help expand and evolve human consciousness. You can find this information on the internet. Trump could not do this because his North Node is in Gemini, so he cannot do this alone. He is a super intelligent guy because Gemini has to do with intelligence, reading, a lot of intelligence, a lot of knowledge, a lot of information has to do with social media, communication, and siblings. When you see him in the low road, that is when he rambles off. Okay, that's the low road of Gemini. That is an excessive amount of air. And there are times where he's brilliant at what he says, and then there are times where he just talks for the sake of talking. Okay. And you can also see the, duality in that, which is perfectly fine. I'm just trying to educate you how a Gemini on the low road might look like. Now, if you look at a Gemini on the high road, that would be like Mark Zuckerberg, which his North Node again is in Gemini. So what did he do? He created Facebook, or Meta, and later on purchased Instagram. And what does that have to do? Well, it's a lot of social media, and it allows people to communicate. So that's 100% the theme of Gemini. So again, Trump can talk for hours, which is perfectly fine. I have nothing against the guy. Like, I'm really neutral about him. However, he does not have the futuristic thinking of Elon. Okay, because their North Nodes are vastly different. So it makes sense why with Elon and Doge, we are seeing the government being put under a microscope. Okay. Now here's the thing. I'm not talking politics. I'm not talking this. I'm just strictly letting you know what's happening in the world right now and the planetary alignments, and why is it happening now, and why didn't it happen, earlier. He's disrupting the status quo. He's being the visionary, the innovator, the rebel. He's also using his technology knowledge to update airplane technology, since it seems that technology that the airplanes use is very old. So Uranus in Taurus brings us issues about freedom, truth, awakening, shock, surprises, aviation disruptions, and if you remember that helicopter plane crash in Washington, D.C., has everything to do with this. Uranus is going to be in Taurus until April 26th of 2026. So this theme is still going to be there, so I would watch out for that. It's also linked to cyber attacks, power outages, and I actually want to show you that the moment that I was downloading all this information to share with you, because it does it I have a quite an interesting process for today, and it wants me to share this with you. So here we go. Improv. I have so many things downloaded to me right now that I had to ask, okay, stop. I want to help you. I want to help you get this out to the people, but just let me know one thing at a time. Okay? So everything that I'm saying, it has been written down because it wants me to write things down, but it's also like on the spur of the moment stuff that's coming in. So it's quite an interesting process. So as I was researching for this topic, I actually came across some power outages like 1 or 2 hours ago when I was researching, and I want to share this with you because to me, this is just quite an interesting thing. So you can see here it says power outage hits over 5,000 Peninsula customers this evening. Estimated restoration is 8 p.m. If you go in here, is Monterey Seaside, and Sandy Hill hit sometime just after 5 p.m. 10th of February, which is where I am when I am filming this. So this is quite interesting. Another one that I have found is most Magic Kingdom rides down due to reported power outages. I can't make this up. Okay. Uranus and Taurus, power outages. There you go. I just thought that this is fascinating, and I literally just wanted to share this with you because it blew my mind when I was actually researching. Because the moment that I wrote all this down, I wasn't aware of any power outages, but when I went and Googled it, I'm like, oh my God, it just happened. So I thought that that was fascinating, and I wanted to share that with you. Another theme is currency volatility, because Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus has to do with currency, and you might see other types of innovation. So going back to the currency, the new, if you haven't heard about this, there's a new AI called DeepSeek. So again, AI technology is linked to Aquarius that caused a market crash. Which is Taurus and currency. So apparently, the issue with this AI called DeepSeek is that they were able to use technology that was less quote unquote expensive, and I do not want to use this word, but for some reason wanted me to use this so I can then share with you why I don't like to use this. So it's quite an interesting process. So, flow with me here. So I don't like to use the word expensive because whenever I use the word expensive, it's like I'm telling myself subconsciously that I cannot afford stuff. So I don't want to put that on me. And whenever I talk, I am very aware that I create my own reality. So I choose very, very carefully the words that I use. Apparently, you wanted me to put that in here. Hopefully, you got some value out of that. It's also about integrity and authenticity, since Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. And something significant is likely to happen in the market, maybe development of new technologies or secrets coming to light. And if we look at astrocartography, and again, it's another realm of astrology, it's astrocartography, and you can literally see where some of the lines fall on the map. And I have my own astrocartography, and again, you cannot do this without your birth time. So if we look at astrocartography for like the world, then you can see the full moon line. It's skimming the west coast of Africa, the east coast of Australia, and the west coast of the US. Now it conjuncts the midheaven running through Russia, Kazakhstan, and Iran. And Pluto conjuncts the midheaven running through Greenland and Brazil. And it's quite fascinating because the midheaven has to do with government and leadership. Okay, you can go and look at some of these countries to see what it is that it's happening there, especially with Greenland, where currently Trump is trying to buy Greenland. So trying to make it, part of the US. So it's quite fascinating. One or more of these will be in the spotlight around the full moon. And now on the 1st of February, Venus is conjuncting Neptune and conjuncting the North Node in Pisces, and they are all at 28 degrees in Pisces. And this energy is very magical, very ethereal. It's helping us dive deep into oneness and connection to source. And other themes are unconditional love, healing, anything to do with aesthetics like painting, poetry, music, anything that's very, very creative. And these planets are at the end of the zodiac, since there are only 2 degrees left of Pisces until they transition to 0 of Aries. Now, because Venus and Neptune and the North Node are at 28 degrees, and we'll be in 29 degrees of Pisces, there will be a sense of emotional overwhelm or confusion, like this is all too much. And there might be a knowing that some elements of your life are about to come to an end, and we haven't yet found out what's going to, be the next step. And I have had recent conversations with people that like they know that this is going to end, which is quite fascinating. By this I mean some things in their life. Just wanted me to clarify that for you. If you notice any aspects of your life dissolving, allow that to happen because it no longer serves you. And this will allow for new space for you to create something new. So for myself, I noticed that people and things slowly are starting to fade out of my life, and new opportunities and people are coming into my life that align more with me at this time. Now, I am definitely feeling the emotional overwhelm as I am pushed to create several things at a time. And I have to keep reminding my guides that I am willing to do whatever they want me to do as long as they have me focusing on one thing at a time and get it done. Which apparently this needed to be emphasized 2 times in this video. So here we go. If you're not keeping a dream journal in this phase with all this Pisces energy, because Pisces is also about dreaming. It's the dreamer. It's you're going to have very, very active dreams in this stage. And if you don't have a dream journal, go ahead and start having one and start writing your dreams down. And even yesterday, I had a very weird dream with someone that I know that I have a soul contract with. And one time I was in the bathtub, which is where I get my downloads usually, because water conduct energy that comes from up, and it's easier for me to receive downloads when I am in water, which is quite fascinating because now I know why it wanted me to drink so much water today, which is another, thing that happened another time. I drank so much water, like I don't know what's happening, but it wants me to drink water. And when I had a session, I was able to go like this into a past life, and I'm like, okay, now I know why that happened. And also today, I drank a lot of water, and now I'm just channeling and channeling whatever wants to come through. Yes, I do have like notes, but also like this is just coming through. So hopefully it's some value to you. Okay, so look at where Pisces is in your chart and whatever house it is under. And if you have any planets at 28 degrees of Pisces or at 10 degrees of either side, so it's between 18 degrees of Pisces and 8 degrees of Aries. And for me, Pisces is in my 5th house of Leo, ironically. So for me, this makes a lot of sense because my creative juices are just so activated that it's just insane. And again, Leo and Pisces are the most creative signs of the zodiac. So it makes sense why I'm just like in a creative frenzy, basically. Like that's the best way that I can describe this to you. Now, I do want to thank you for being here with me, going with the flow, and exploring the stars with me and any downloads that might come as it wants me to share with you. And if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a cosmic update. Now it's your turn. Take a look at what house Leo, Aquarius, Pisces, and Taurus are in your chart and see how this plays out in your life. Do you need any help finding your astrological birth chart? No worries, I'll leave a link in the description below with a step-by-step guiding process on how to do that. Now, there's something important here for you to note. You need your accurate birth time. Otherwise, you won't know the houses the signs fall into, and you'll only have half of your story. Now, if you're curious about why birth time is so crucial, I highly, but highly recommend you watch my video where I walk you through the reincarnation process and explain why our astrological birth chart is one of the most important tools for understanding our soul's journey. And I'll leave that link in the description below. Do you want a personalized astrological reading? If you're ready to uncover exactly what you come here to do this lifetime, you can book a session with me, and I'll leave the link for that below. Now remember, you will need the accurate birth time before you schedule, so I highly recommend calling the hospital where you were born or reaching out in some way, shape, or form and obtain it. Some states in the US provide a birth certificate with the recording birth time, so be sure to check that in your state. Now, let's keep the conversation going. Let me know in the comments below how this Leo full moon energy is affecting you. It starts influencing us a few days prior and lingers a few days after. Also, tell me which houses you have Leo, Pisces, Aquarius, and Taurus in, and I'll reply with insights on how this energy might be influencing you right now. Do you have any thoughts or questions in general? Just drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. And until next time, trust the universe and keep looking up. Take care.